All
tantric
right.
interviewing.
Just on YouTube, it's so hard to tell when you go live and then you look like a weirdo for the first 5 seconds of your live feed, like when it goes post production.
Yeah, it says we live, or at least on my end.
So you can see it on YouTube.
Yeah, there's a little live button.
All right, cool. All right, guys. Let's see. Ooh, hold on. There we go. All right. Okay. So hey, how goes it? Kenn Bosak, and this is usually where I would say from the bitcoinpodcast.com. But my guest today is actually from the bitcoinpodcast.com. I got host number 1 in the house, Marcello. Say hi, bud.
Yep, what's up?
What's going on, man? Thank you for joining me here today, dude. I know you're busy. You're always interviewing people for the bitcoinpodcast.com. You're a busy guy, so I appreciate you taking your time to stop by my channel. And I'll say I never thought in a million years I'd be interviewing the guy who got me into Bitcoin via the Bitcoin podcast. So
Yeah.
that is pretty awesome, man.
Well, funny story about that is I think it was host number 2, Dimitri, that reached out to you initially, and then he was telling me about silly stoner Ken and how he's like passionate about Bitcoin. And I was like, man, this dude, I don't know about this guy. And then Dimitri was like, just trust me, like this dude is the real deal. And I don't know if you noticed, but like I was the last one to kind of get friendly with you. Not that I was being unfriendly, but I just wasn't sticking my neck out there.
Well, no, this
And
was your family, and I was kind of like adopted in. I am blessed to be a part of the team, man.
oh, right on, man. I think we're lucky, man. You're like our street team. You know, you do a lot of work for us, and we appreciate it. And then, I eventually came around, and then I mean, you were always asking questions in the Slack, and I think you day by day you inched by and became a little bit more knowledgeable than me. I'd have to say because I'm the least techie guy in the group. I'm kind of the make jokes and I'm just kind of in it to buy a yacht. And I'm kind of in the podcast by association just because I'm friends with them. So it's just a cool position to be in.
Yeah, I feel the same way, man. So everybody watching live, just wait till the end for your questions, but chat amongst yourselves if you'd like, and at the end we'll get to a Q&A. But yeah, Cello, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell everybody who you are, what you do, and maybe how you got into Bitcoin.
Yeah. So I'm I run the Bitcoin podcast. We're not affiliated, like Let's Talk Bitcoin or all those other ones. We're totally independent, and we hustle. We hustle. We get our own sponsors. We do our own homework. We form our own opinions. We grab our own guests. So it's just kind of a labor of love project. My background is in marketing. I'm a graphic designer, and my love of being rich someday kind of made me want to get into Bitcoin. I was sitting at my boy's house drinking a beer, and Dimitri just happened to be there. For those that don't know, I've known Dimitri since I was 6, so I've known him for 25, 26 years. So when he talks with excitement in his eyes, I listen. And he was telling me about this funny money, this digital money, man. And I was like, I don't know, man. He was like, hey, let's dip out of this dude's house. Let's go back to my house and let me pull up some algorithms. Let me pull up some charts and let me show you this. And he showed me, Bitcoin was like 15 cents here, and now it's worth, I don't know, I think it was like $300 when I got into it. And he was telling me, man, if we invest now, sky's the limit. And then we got into like Litecoin mining. We built a very expensive mining rig out in his backyard. We got our parents into it. We were telling everybody about it. We're basically trying to get people on that mothership so we can all go to the moon together. And just kind of went from there. And we got into altcoins. Our portfolio is looking pretty nice nowadays, just because we're early adopters. Paid off.
So what led you guys to doing the Bitcoin podcast? And maybe you could segue into like, how the process was. Was it harder or easier than you expected it? And maybe segue again into like some of the drawbacks and some of the perks.
Yeah. It started in my living room in May 2015 or April 2015. And I was like, hey, like I said, I've known Dimitri for a good portion of my life, and we're in our 30s. And what that means is if you when you, I feel like when you're in your 30s, I got 2 kids, I got a wife, a mortgage. If you don't make a conscious effort to reach out to your friends, I think this is the decade where you kind of lose touch with a lot of people. So the podcast was a way for me to ensure that like I stay tight with my bud, like every week, we're working all week, we got our families, but I know we're going to reconnect every week, and we're going to get on the mic, and we're going to, reminisce and discuss and hang out. So that was kind of one of the reasons. Was it was a social thing. And then I was like, hey, we got this really cool technology that not a lot of people know about. So let's start this podcast around cryptocurrency. And then we wanted to figure out a name. And we were like, well, what about the Bitcoin podcast? And we're like, well, there's no way that URL is available. There's no way. And then it ended up being available, and we bought it like right then and there. And we sat on the domain for like a month trying to figure out how we wanted to structure the show. Corey, host number 3. I got a funny story about Corey. It's all about fate, man. Like you and me were talking about before the show, man.
That's how I feel. I got a part of this team, man. It's straight up fate.
Fate is a funny thing, man. So Corey, I didn't know Corey in person yet. I met Corey when I was about 14 years old on this whack ass website called Zanga. I don't know if you remember that.
No.
It was like it's like an internet diary, kind of like Facebook. Like, hey, I'm eating some cereal today. This girl I like is ignoring me. Here's a haiku. You just make these daily entries. And I knew Corey on that website, just like internet strangers, man, just crazy. All right. So fast forward 5-6 years later. All right. I'm in my dorm room. I'm playing Halo 2 online with D. And Dimitri went to Texas Tech University. I went to Texas State Technical, and his roommate wanted to play with us. And his username was the same username of that Zanga profile. And I was like, yo, man, I knew a dude 6 years ago on the internet. His name was Pettyho. Is that you? And he was like, holy shit, man, is that you, Marcello? It just so happens that this internet stranger that I met in my teens was my best friend's roommate in college. Like, the odds of that it just blows my mind. So I've built up this friendship with Corey half my life, and I pitched the podcast idea to him, and he didn't want to do it at all. And I tried to convince him. He was like, man, you got a fan, you got a listener, but I don't want to do the show. So I told Dimitri that Corey didn't want to do the show. And then Dimitri was like, let me talk to him. And then the next day he was like, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, what the fuck, man? Why didn't you do it when I asked you? So
yeah, right. Like, was there a secret handshake to that?
So the podcast was pretty much formed, basically. Just 3 friends just trying to have an extracurricular activity, man. And how we started it was, I always felt that podcasts with no guests are kind of whack. Like, who are we? We're not celebrities, so why would anyone want to tune in? So we got to get a notable figure for an episode, because then they'll tune into the guest and maybe they'll listen to us. That was kind of our mindset. So we got a guest, I believe it was Tawanda Kembo, who's a Bitcoiner out in Africa. And we're like, whoa, this is pretty cool to get someone who's not in the country. And then we were like, you know what? Let's just get a guest every episode, and let's just follow this format. So that's been the hardest part, is making sure that we always have a really good guest every week for a person to tune in. It took 100 episodes to convince Andreas. Still haven't convinced the Winklevi twins. Finally got Charlie Lee on. After 2 years. It's not easy, because you got to build up a rapport. You have to build bridges. You have to get a certain amount of traffic for people to take you serious. So the first couple episodes, kind of rough, but hopefully people like us now.
Well, I mean, you guys have had some pretty big fish on the show. You got Gavin, Roger, Andreas, Charlie. I mean, you guys have snagged a pretty big net of big fish.
Yeah, man, and you kind of the best part about the guest is talking to him before the mic is on. And like Roger Ver, man, he's I don't know, man. It's hard to admit this stuff or break down the fourth wall, but sometimes you get guests just because you know they're going to attract numbers. And, we didn't like Roger Ver. I mean, he was very cold to us, and we weren't vibing. But we put out the episodes just because we know they'll make numbers. Like Charlie Lee, we got more traffic from Charlie Lee in 2 days than we did with 2 months with Andreas. So you never know, you know, the lightning in the bottle. You just never know. Charlie was really cool. Andreas, first time he was on, he was cool. Second time, not so much. You learn more about these guests the more they come on. Corey, he wants to learn more about this industry. Me, I'm just trying to look at people from like a human level, because building these bridges isn't going to further my career or make me richer. I'm just kind of doing this as like a labor of love. So I'm just, objectively, I'm just kind of looking at people from afar.
Yeah, I do. I had a question lined up for you about something recent, and you actually touched on it the most recent episode of the Bitcoin podcast, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. What caused you to start losing your love for Bitcoin, and then what got you to rekindle that flame?
Yeah, this is another thing. So if you start a project with friends, you better make damn sure that they're really good friends. Starting a podcast or even having, like, if you're best friends and you want to be roommates, don't do that. Don't do that. That's like a friendship ruiner. And when you start a podcast, make sure you have a good friendship, because it's like being in a rock band, man. There's a lot of bumps that the people will never see. A lot of arguments. Me and D got into a really heated argument, like a friendship ruining argument, like a couple months ago. But we're boys, so it worked out, and it's all podcast related, because having 3 people see eye to eye all the time, that shit's hard, man. So, coupled with that and just the stagnant state of Bitcoin, like the price wasn't going up. I was getting all of this bad news with like Stephen Toole and Slockit, and then the Arcade City and all these like schemy ass people that are just trying to rip people off or make a quick buck. I just felt like the space was unhealthy, and Roger Ver's attitude and Reddit being censored just wasn't a good environment. And a good friend of mine, Arthur Falls, who runs the Ether Report, he declared Bitcoin dead. There was a guy who came out and said that he invented Bitcoin that ended up being fake.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, it was just an unhealthy space, coupled with the fact that running a Bitcoin with your boys, it's hard. So even me and I'll give you a little truth right here, and I got love for everybody, but there's a podcast under our banner called Block Channel. I don't get along with that dude at all. So Dimitri and Corey kind of keep me away from him, as to not like mix bad blood. And I'm not saying I'm not a person that you can get along with, but you can't get along with everybody. You can't please everybody. You can't be friends with everybody, and that's just the way it goes. So,
and that's the professional way to go about it. You know what I mean? Hey, you do your thing over there. I'll stay in my office over here.
Pretty much, man. So, Corey was getting a little frustrated with me about that, and there was a little friction between us, a little friction between me and D. But we're all boys, and we're not, shout out to women, but we're not women. We're not that emotional. We fix it, and the space is healthy again. The price is going up. There's a lot of positivity, and believe it or not, man, like Ken, your excitement is infectious. I love your videos. I mean, seeing someone make a recap of our videos, like that's like, when you watch The Walking Dead, and then there's like that show, The Talking Dead. I'm like, what? Are we that big that there's a recap show of our shows? I mean, how can you not like get excited about that? So
how do you think I feel, man? You're like, wow, like, dude, coming from you, dude, that means everything. Honestly, I wouldn't have this if it wasn't for the podcast. I really wouldn't. I owe a lot, 98% of what I do in crypto to the podcast, because that's where it clicked. That's where I actually understood the information, and that's what you guys got me excited to want to create my own content. So yeah, it's funny how like one hand washes the other in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, I do when I do the podcast, I actually learn from Corey. That's why when you listen to the show, I'm like asking questions. I learn as I go too, man. So it's all about community.
Yeah, we're not experts, enthusiasts. You know what I mean?
Right, and you know what? I sold all my Litecoin to Dimitri when I got done mining, and I don't have any Ethereum. I have a shitload of Bitcoin, but the money that we get from sponsors, I give to Corey, and Corey divvies it up. So I have some Ethereum, or the show has Ethereum.
Right.
So that's all I'm kind of involved in right now is how much money the show makes. That's how much I make. So, and I'm just learning as I go. So.
I know you're not the most technical person, so I just want your take on it, as a just person in this space, your thoughts on that whole SegWit versus Bitcoin Unlimited forking fiasco. It's still raging silently in the background.
I don't see what is taking so long for everyone to get on the same page. I don't understand why we don't want what's best for this space. And Charlie Lee, what he was telling me was he was in this roundtable secret meeting, and the only people that were giving him pushback were the miners. They just didn't want to listen to what Charlie wanted to say. They didn't want to be united. They just wanted to look out for themselves. So, I don't really know how all that stuff really works. I just don't see why we can't just all go to the moon together and, increase the block size, decrease it, use the Lightning Network. There's just so many different factors, and no one can seem to agree on anything.
Well, that's dude, it's back to the Bitcoin podcast. I'm not trying to overplug it. I'm just saying, after that episode with Charlie Lee and his explanation on SegWit and Litecoin and Lightning Network and confidential transactions and cross blockchain communications and just everything that he touched on that subject, maybe like I didn't have any Litecoin till after that interview, and I got some, and because I understood. And that's what I don't understand. I'm with you. I don't understand why they don't see that that's what the users want. SegWit, that would make the price go up. There's your incentive for the miners. But I feel like that there's a mosquito in those miners' ears that they trust, and they're going with that gut over brain instincts.
I think so. Yeah. If I ask the average person why SegWit is better than BU, not many people can really give me a definitive answer. Other critics of BU are going to argue that the network infrastructure, they can't handle large blocks, and it's going to prevent the average person from running a node on their home computer, which is going to reduce, decentralization, because it's all about decentralizing the system. So the worst case is the huge blocks are going to cause Bitcoin to collapse under its own weight. So there's this concern over the capabilities of the BU dev team. They introduced several bugs. We've had them on the show to talk about it. And the most recent, what happened? It resulted in the majority of the BU nodes to shut down with one attack. It was a simple attack.
They patched it with not open source code.
Right. And in that instance, had BU been the main protocol running the majority of the network, it would have caused like a complete and like non-recoverable failure of Bitcoin. Like it would have been done. So, I just don't get why we can't see eye to eye on that. It just blows my mind every week.
Let's see. It's a good one. Have you ever been scammed?
Scammed?
Scam, like some kind of cloud mining website that just turned off one day, or a wallet that just isn't there the next day, or anything. Have you ever been like scammed in any way in this space? Because there's so many out there, and you've been around forever in it.
I have not. I've only kept my funds on Coinbase, and as far as I can tell, I haven't had any crazy shit happen to me. Dimitri and Corey, they like to try out different wallets and shit like that. Like, I'm gonna use Jax today, or I'm like, Coinbase works for me, man. I'm good. But Corey and D are the ones that like they'll try a whole bunch of stuff and experiment. And I'm like, hey, what are you up to today? I'm buying Ripple and storing it in what's Eric Voorhees thing? But they'll like convert altcoins to other altcoins, and they'll use
Exodus.
Yeah, something like that. Let me look that up while I talk. They'll every purchase they make, they'll use perks and all that. I'm not that guy, man. I just like putting my Bitcoin in Coinbase, watching it stack up, and just do a friendly show. I'm pretty simple, man. I really am.
Simple's good. Where do you get your information from? I know you create information, you produce information. So where do you consume it?
So right before we start an episode, we'll go to Reddit and we'll try to discuss like the top 3 or 4 topics. And the good thing about having 3 different hosts is you're going to have 3 different views. Um, and when we first started, we kind of had like, if you watch like Jimmy Fallon or something and they bring a guest out, he'll have like a cue card with like things to talk about. We used to do that when we interviewed guests. Even we had like 10 questions already filled out. But I think we got so good at it, we just wing it. Like, hey, what'd you hear about in the Bitcoin space today? Or, hey, Charlie Lee, just, here's a good question for you. And we just totally wing it. Dimitri travels a lot, so he does a lot of reading on the planes. And Corey's day job is Bitcoin. So he always has something to talk about. And I used to work at IBM as a blockchain consultant. And this was back in January. So my finger had to be at the pulse pretty consistently. So
this is a good one. I like this one. If you could interview anybody on the Bitcoin podcast, who would it be, why, and what's the one question you'd have to ask?
I always want the Winklevis. I've always wanted the Winklevi, but I'd probably say Brian Armstrong, because Brian Armstrong ignores me all the
time. so you play well with hard to get.
Yeah, we're pretty determined that I'm gonna get the Winklevi on my show. I'm gonna do it. Charlie Lee was on our list for a long time. We finally got him, and he works at Coinbase. So I'm gonna send him an email like, "What's up, man? Forward this to
With our
Brian."
powers combined, the Bitcoin podcast and this YouTube channel, everybody watching and listening right now, go holler at the Winklevi and tell them, tag the Bitcoin podcast on Twitter and tell them they need to talk to us.
Yeah, man. And you know what? Like every time I talk to the Winklevi, I think it's Cameron that I talk to. There's Cameron and Tyler. He always faves my tweets, but he never answers me, and it pisses me off. So Brian and Cameron Winklevi, I really want on just because they duck me so much. And we had on this Bitcoin doc filmer, and he said it took 2.5 years to convince the Winklevi to do a 15-second interview for his movie. So they can play hard to get, but I'm gonna get him.
Let's see. What's your favorite altcoin? Like why? Like, and not just for trading or for value purpose, but like the program or the project solving a solution or solving a problem with the solution in the space.
Probably Litecoin, because the what's good for Litecoin is good for Bitcoin. Would you agree?
I would agree, and I do think that will speak, and Bitcoin will get SegWit.
Yeah, and you know what? I like that I like that I can say that Charlie Lee is the creator. It bugs me that there's no creator of Bitcoin. I know people like that, so we're not governed and all that. But I like to know that there's a Jesus Christ of Bitcoin out there somewhere.
Yeah, it's comforting.
Yeah, I like the way Litecoin's run. He was working on Litecoin pretty steady for 2 years, and some people might call it boring, but he was chipping away at it. Really, he was working at Coinbase, and when 5 o'clock rolled around, he would spend his own time kind of working on Litecoin, and boom, man, it just came out of nowhere. And look how awesome it is right now.
Yeah, I have a video coming up on an experiment I tested and I'm going to do where I'm sending different cryptocurrencies in specific amounts, trying to see which transaction was the cheapest and fastest. And yeah, Litecoin's making a pretty decent wave in that aspect. But where do you see like Bitcoin versus blockchain in the future? Like, obviously, I see them differently. So I see Bitcoin as one, blockchain as another. So like, where do you see Bitcoin in the future versus blockchain in the future?
Well, I don't know. I don't think people are going to like this answer, but I don't, Bitcoin, they say, is an experiment. And you say it's an experiment because you don't know if it's going to succeed or if it's going to fail yet. I don't think blockchain is an experiment. Blockchain is happening. I've worked at IBM. I've been in the 23rd floor of the skyscrapers. I've heard the people that make millions of dollars. They are super excited about blockchain. It's on everyone's initiative. It's going to happen, and the technology that you can build upon the platform is endless, and it's already happening. It's just kind of like Litecoin, how it was steadily working and you didn't know about it, and then boom, blockchain is going to explode. And I'm telling you, by 2020, everything's going to be on it. Bitcoin, not so sure. I'm excited about Bitcoin. I'm excited about doing a podcast, but once the price goes back down and the bubble burst, boom, there goes all the interest. There's a lot of people in the space that just want to get rich, and that's it. But blockchain is what really matters. The tech, what you can build, how it's gonna make everything better, man. It's just better. I don't know any way to put it. Bitcoin will get you rich, but blockchain is gonna really enrich your life.
I wanted to touch on that as well. What current, not problem, I guess, but like current industry or current thing right now, do you think will be the first to adopt and benefit from blockchain technology?
That's a good question. Healthcare. I think healthcare is the most flawed one right now. And I think that blockchain is being positioned right now as the next frontier in healthcare. We had a really good dude named Q Harrison Terry from Redox, and he was telling me that healthcare is one of the slowest industries to adopt because there's so many challenges. So what we're proposing right now, and I'm kind of helping him with that, is that blockchain technology, as you know, it's like this record. It's a permanent record of all these transactions and exchanges. This record can be used to be shared among a network of computers, all the hospitals, everything. It's pretty amazing. The users on the network, they can add any record. So instead of a database that is like centrally located and maintains and manages the records, well, this database is distributed to the networks, the actual networks, and it's kept secure via cryptography. So it's really amazing that that's how your records are going to be stored in the future. And then in addition, blockchain it's used in the financial industry. We know that. So my follow-up answer: MasterCard. They're experimenting with blockchain. IBM. I've seen that firsthand before I got canned, so I don't work there anymore.
Their loss.
Maybe it was a nice paycheck, but yeah, they kind of did me dirty. But that's another podcast for that. So I think healthcare is the hospitals and the health systems, cancer research, MasterCard finances, all that good stuff, man.
Where do you see yourself and the Bitcoin podcast going? Like the future for the network and yourself?
Well, in November, I'm going to go to DevCon 3 in Cancun, right? So I was telling you that I started this podcast in my living room trying to figure out domain names, and now I'm going to Cancun at DevCon 3. Like, what? You know what I mean? So that's I can't dream bigger than that. I mean, we had no idea that we were going to make enough money from sponsors for us to go to conferences. So, I should have brought water. The idea is we're going to get a hotel, and then we can do like live interviews right in our hotel room from all these people, the industry leaders, all the Ethereum leaders. So that's going to happen in November. And that was kind of a goal for us. We were getting maybe 1,000 downloads a month when we first started. And now we made our last month, we were like 30,000. So we were like, oh man, well, wouldn't it be cool if we got 5,000 downloads a month? And we just blew past that. So whatever goals that we set that we want this podcast to achieve, we've done it. So I don't know where else we can go. Like, quit our jobs. Can you quit your jobs and do this full time? I don't know. You have I don't know, if you get 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, you want to quit your job with us and let's just do this full time, man. Content around the clock.
Yeah, I have fantasies of doing that actually, and I have like anxiety, so like doing this is like like it's something I got to fight through because I want to help people. I don't want to be famous. I'm not one that want 3,000 Facebook friends or whatever. I just want to help people, and now I get to help 3,000 people on Facebook or however. So I would definitely see myself doing that if it's possible.
How are you going to handle that, man? You got 10,000 subscribers, which means you got about 7,000 eyes on you at any given time. You're going to be sweating buckets, man.
I'm doing it just thinking about it, bro.
All eyes on.
I had like the air conditioner on before this, so the room was cold.
So are you at work? Like, are you fixing phones and you're just like thinking about, man, when I get home, I'm gonna make this bomb ass video. I'm gonna I'm going to put
Yeah.
out this content like it's always on your mind. That's kind of how like we are. So it's destined, man. You know, as long as we keep doing this, putting out content, because I feel like most podcasts they fail because they're not consistent. They don't, you know, once a week we made a promise, put out something at least once a week, and now we put out shit like every 4 days. So as long as you just keep pumping out content, is the mothership's gonna grow, man.
I got a couple questions in the chat I just wanted to go through so I don't leave people hanging, and answer as you would any question. Will blockchain stop piracy?
Depends in what field. If there's a field that highly values privacy, then that's going to be their main concern. In other fields, to my knowledge, privacy isn't a really big concern. I don't really have a specific example, but the people behind blockchain that are building on ICOs and raising money, they're smart, except for Stephen Toole. That guy's an asshole. Everybody else, though, they're doing their due diligence.
Everybody else, though. I got another one here. It says, so if there's faith in blockchain, wouldn't there just be faith in the top 20 altcoins? Like there's just the projects in general.
For me, they're not mutually exclusive. I don't associate cryptography with blockchain. That's just me. I was working at IBM for a couple months, and nobody knew what Bitcoin was, but they knew what blockchain was, and they didn't give a shit what Bitcoin was. And if I mentioned it, they looked at me like I was some kind of weirdo. So I don't think they're mutually exclusive, and I think the mainstreamers, they don't care about crypto. They just care about making money, building a more efficient system that's already in place using blockchain. So I don't know how many people share that view in this crowd, but in the corporate crowd, people don't care too much about Bitcoin yet.
What do you think it's going to take for people that aren't into it to get into it, or they never will? Like, do you think
to the moon, my friend? To the moon.
Yeah, the price is going to get everybody into it.
Yeah, I get so annoyed now because I don't know if you noticed that, but I think you just added me on Facebook. I got like 70 friends. I know thousands of people, but I just don't like adding a bunch of people on Facebook. But Dimitrik has like, if you go down the street and you nod at Dimitrik, he'll add you on Facebook. He's got so many people. So when the price goes up, the people come out of the weeds on his news feed. They're like, "Oh yeah, man, I'm so glad you taught me about Bitcoin and all that." And then when Bitcoin goes down, no one talks about it. So, this last week I got kind of frustrated, and I told Dimitrik, I was like, "Man, these fair weather crypto fiends, man, that just want to get rich. It's really annoying." And he's like, "Why are you annoyed, man? Any interest is good interest." I was like, "Yeah, I guess you're right. So, the normal people, it's going to take the price to get them interested. Kind of like me, I guess.
Yeah, and as you said on the newest episode of the Bitcoin podcast, like kind of come off a little spammy in my Facebook feed with the referral this or info to that.
Hey, sorry.
No, dude, no, I am. But here's the thing, and you're right though. I do come off spammy, but I found that is getting my inbox full of people asking me why is Bitcoin worth so much, and that opens the gate for me to just get their full attention and explain blockchain and the encryption and the deflationary, and like I get their attention better once they see like the numbers, or like see what I put in and what I actually currently have in value. And I call it Schrodinger's profits. You know what I mean? Like until I open the box, I'm broke or I'm rich. I didn't sell my crypto. I'm in profit today. I could wake up tomorrow broke. And I do pass that on, but telling people, hey, you can get $10 of it for free. You can get your $100, withdraw your $100 and just keep the $10 on Coinbase and watch it grow. And then they, then they usually end up leaving the 100 there, blah, blah. But again, like I do the spamminess because I see it gets attention, and then that gets eyes. I can steer the eyes in the right direction.
Yeah. Well, I do want to clarify that was just a first impression initially. But I like the way you handle the people that don't get it. Because, you'll be like, hey, man, first person to leave a comment, you get $10 in Bitcoin or whatever. And then you'll get like a heckler or a naysayer. And I really like the way you curb their opinions.
I've had a couple people actually inbox me, and most of the people that send me any kind of donation is usually somebody that, not that I coerced, but I sent them in the right direction to get info. Like there's some people I've sent into our Slack that have just like, dude, thank you, like, you know, just read blah blah blah, or episodes, or send them some information, and they're like, oh, I didn't get it, and now I do, and you know, thanks for the information. And I'm just, I'm happy that I can not like, I hate the word convince because it's not. It's just like I'm happy I could open people's eyes to what it is, not what they think it is.
Oh, I don't know. I think convince might be the right word because or convert. Convert might be a strong one, but you have to open their eyes to why it's a better system. And then when they fully understand it, that's when you got them. You know what I mean? I mean, this thing could be as crazy as Scientology. You know, we could all be lunatics for believing in cryptocurrency, and it might end up being a bust. But you got to keep the faith. I think that it's just a better system, a better way to transfer money. I think it's the best thing that you can invest in. I really truly believe that. And on top of that, the technology behind blockchain is just life changing. But I could be wrong. Who knows? But this is the faith that I put into it.
Do you look at investing in Bitcoin as in investing money growing, or investing helping a project grow?
No, strictly money. Yeah, I'm pretty.
I love it.
Yeah, pretty much. Like Dimitri and Corey frown on me when I talk this way, but yeah, I want a Lambo, man, with gold doors, and that for me. That's all Bitcoin is buying low and holding. Because like I said, blockchain and Bitcoin, they're not together. I view them as separate. So I'm just holding until I'm rich. That's it.
Yeah, if we're
Corey,
gonna be playing bumper yachts.
yeah, exactly. Corey and D have other plans. I think Dimitri doesn't want to touch his crypto until it reaches 100,000, no exceptions. And I'm like, dude, I want a steak dinner from time to time. You know what I'm saying? So
I
we all
do
have our
that.
different views.
Yeah. So yeah, how do you use Bitcoin? Do you just buy it and hold it? Do you spend it? Do you trade it? Do you, you know, how do you use Bitcoin? How's Bitcoin make your life better?
So here's my wedding band. I don't know if you see that. Pretty cool. I bought my wedding band with Bitcoin. So even if I'm married to my wife for 60, 70 years and Bitcoin is a distant memory, I'll always know that, hey, there was a time when I used cryptocurrency to buy my wedding band, stuff like that. I've bought food with it. I'm buying a trip to Cancun with Ethereum.
Yeah, I
Actually,
sold some Bitcoin to go to the Bahamas.
absolutely, man. So that's happening this year. Dimitri, Corey, and we said the next time we get together, we're going to buy a steak dinner with crypto. Just reward yourself a little bit, like I feel like the donations you get, I don't think they'd be mad at you if you got a filet mignon from time to time. You put in the work, you're creating awareness, and it's all about rewarding yourself.
Oh, I already dedicate the address that I share is like my life savings. So usually almost anything I get is probably just going to be locked away till I have to use it or I want to. But
is
yeah,
there
but
is there like a magical number though? Like, let's say Bitcoin is worth 30,000 a coin, you still hold it?
I have a couple Bitcoin. So if one Bitcoin went to 30,000, I'd probably do something with one. I mean, I might get an RV or a place to live, or I might try to upgrade my life a little bit. I ain't gonna see the man. For me, I wasn't somebody who was worried about money or any value or holding value or anything like that until cryptocurrency got me interested. So I'm used to not having it. You know what I mean?
Wait, so you didn't have visions of luxury, nothing like that? You didn't want more?
No, I felt like I was either dumb or too smart to get into it with knowing that the transaction fees for stock markets are like $10 at best. There's no return in the savings account. Roth IRAs aren't paying nothing. So I knew like there's no way for somebody in my tax bracket to really do anything. And then I saw cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and trading and the percentage that it goes up in value, and that actually gave me some like dreams. Like I didn't even dream of owning a yacht before Bitcoin, and now I get to dream about it. So it's already paying off.
Do you go on like yachtbook.com and look at yachts and like favorite your You go to
I
like
I do have a favorite yacht. I
helicopters.com.
do have a favorite yacht. It's not from yacht. I just googled yachts and there's an image of a yacht that has like a yacht that goes into its yacht. So it's
Yeah,
like there's like a yacht and then like a baby yacht that comes out. And I want that one. I want that
yeah.
one.
I have a folder on my desktop that's like Bitcoin dreams, and there's like Lambos, helicopters, yachts, uh, gold
James
mansions.
Bond. Sorry, yeah, you got a comment here. James Bond said he will donate 2 million Bitcoin to me right now.
Can we
That's
please make Ken and his baby yacht happen? I would like that to happen very much.
you know what's funny, dude, and this is great. When I first got into this, and right before I got into Bitcoin, I was start like looking into savings and all that stuff, and I made a GoFundMe to make me a millionaire. So I was asking for $1 million
Yeah.
just for the sake of helping me obtain $1 million. It didn't work. I should have said cash me outside or something. That would have worked.
You don't understand, man. That you might be onto something. If the community could come together and make the first guy that starts at nothing and become a Bitcoin millionaire from the funds directly donated from the people, and then we can just watch him just be this rich asshole that everyone donated to,
I
and
do
kind of
have it,
Truman Show style. I mean, how great would that be?
dude.
I would donate.
If I got $1 million, I would quit my job right now and I would literally live 24/7 YouTube live. It would be like the
The
Truman
Truman,
Show
yeah,
of
the
my
Truman
life.
Show.
Yeah. I already have that weird like paranoia. I'm not afraid of like the government spying on my phone, my nudes. I'm not worried about anything else. My tinfoil hat thing is I'm living the Truman Show already. Like everybody knows everything already. So like I already have that. I wouldn't mind being on YouTube Live 24/7. So make me a millionaire, and we'll start the Kenn Bosak Truman Show, where just I never turn off the camera.
I would stream that shit on the website like all the time. That's a great idea. I love that.
We should make this happen. I feel like that would be that. Yeah, if we could do, we should start a Kickstarter or something for like a 30-day project where I just live on live for 30 days and see what
Yeah.
happens.
Well, you know, like the cam models, you can give them gold live. I feel like you should just stream your life, and then people can donate as you're living your life. You know what I mean? Until you become a millionaire or something. I don't know, man. I feel like that's a crazy idea worth fleshing out, man. I like that.
What's something that you would want to do right now in this space that you're not doing? Like what's your like dreams in the crypto space?
Oh,
Like
I want to get back to interviewing the lepers of society that use Bitcoin. No one interviewed prostitutes. Only we were doing that. Nobody was interviewing rappers. We were doing that. Don't judge the prostitutes like right off the back. It's very, very interesting when you have this madam, or lack of a better word, a pimp, but it's all kind of legitimate, that is so entrenched in Bitcoin that they tell their ladies to go out and to only accept Bitcoin, and then they get interested. All right, so you have this very niche community. On top of that, they also have clients that pay Bitcoin, and you have to realize how interesting and amazing that is. So we were starting to interview a lot of these workers taking Bitcoin, how the clients would interact with them with Bitcoin, and like before they would go to the hotel room, and before they would do their thing, they would actually talk about crypto for 30 minutes. How fucking crazy is that? So we interviewed, I think, like 2 working girls and then 1 company, and then man, we got too big, and then we started getting boring and legitimate, and then we started getting a lot of suits on. I would really like to go back. Like Lisa Ling has this show called Our America, where she goes into like prisons and prostitute rings and nunneries, like places that people don't really think about or don't want to bring a camera to. I would love to expose the Bitcoin world in those areas, rather than get, Poindexter Mulligan building his next supercomputer. Let's talk to him. I don't want to do that. I want to go talk to, this model in London who gets paid in Bitcoin, transfers the money into fiat, and then flies back to LA in the weekend and watches her money triple and quadruple, stuff like that. I think that's super interesting. And I think that's what gets people interested. And we haven't done that in a while. So I'd like to get back to that.
yeah, those are some of my favorite interviews. I do enjoy the more informative ones where I'm just like writing down notes and I'm like, I'm gonna have to Google this later. I didn't even know I didn't know that, but I guess I don't, but when you're talking to, that's what really got me into Bitcoin, was because I knew I didn't have to be so money techie. I just had to, be interested and put that interest, and listening to you guys talk to people like that. And recently I was writing this one, Kenny Styles, and listening to him talk about it from like the perspective of somebody who's traveling, and just all the other situations was like really eye opening. Like I'm so Americanized. I don't even worry about anything, and I'm like, oh, money's fine. We have PayPal, and it's like the whole world out there that that has issues, that where this helps. And that's, for me, when I buy Bitcoin, I feel more like I'm putting my money into a project and helping that project grow, like giving them a money they can use to get a developer to do something, not necessarily just buying a currency and holding it for value that it will grow. I'm giving it to a project.
Yeah, and people are like, they only know Kenny Styles from like banging milfs on cam. But did you know that he's raising a family in the damn rainforest, and he has to send money overseas to his family, and the only way he can do that is with Bitcoin. And then you just go, you find out about these people behind the camera, and you find out that there's a real incentive for them to use Bitcoin. People get into Bitcoin for many, many different reasons and all walks of life. And somewhere along the line, we got a little bit too like corporate. Just we couldn't interview Andreas at episode 18. We had to interview the London call girl just because we were trying to build up our downloads and everything. So for me,
got to go back to the humble beginnings, bro.
Yeah, man, and that's what got me excited, is just learning about all walks of life, not just Poindexter McPoindexter building his another corporation. That's cool and all, but I like to hear from like everyday people and how they're using Bitcoin to better their life. And right now, Kenny, like, Bitcoin made him like retire from porn. He is legitimately not working, man. He's just posting blogs on Steemit. He is getting cryptocurrency, and he is raising a kid out in the rainforest. Like, that's cool.
So, when's the end, like, of what you're doing with the Bitcoin podcast? Like, when Bitcoin hits $100,000, are you guys like, I ain't getting out of bed today. I ain't doing anything ever again. When's that? Just we're done. We're rich. We're millionaires. And you guys can just go screw you. Like, when's that?
Well, I have this debate with Corey. Corey still thinks Bitcoin's in its infancy. I'm like, man, it's been around since 2009. I don't know. And then people will write in and be like, it took email 20 years to get off the ground. So I don't know. They think that we're going to do this for like the next decade. I get
email paved the way. Like that made the longer process much shorter for the next go around. So I would say 10% of that time.
Thank you. That's always my logic. Netflix, it didn't take 20 years for Netflix to throw a blockbuster. It should happen pretty quick. So
you gave me a Game Boy Color, and then you gave me a touchscreen phone. I mean, I kind of got it because of the other one.
Yeah, so I'm not one of those people that's like, if it didn't take off by now, it's not going to happen. But
do you see the price, man? It's doing good. It doesn't need anyone's help.
It doesn't need anyone's help. And then the second half of it, like I told you at the beginning, this is my way to keep in touch with my buds. So I encourage everyone to do a project with a friend, because it kind of helps that friendship and helps bond with people. Because if I wasn't doing this, I would just be raising kids, pulling my hair out. So this way I have a dedicated amount of time that I can just spitball with Corey and D, talk about a really exciting industry. And then
what's some advice though on people that want to start a podcast that don't, what's some things that you wish you knew getting into it? What tools, programs, like if you have any advice for somebody that's like been waiting to start a podcast, like what is it that you wish somebody would have told you?
That's a good question. So we had this dude named, I don't know if you remember Tony Swish. He was he joined us on the podcast. Really helpful guy. And then he went crazy, and he had a podcast that was like 26 episodes deep, and then that quit. And I see a lot of podcasts start up and quit, and it's not because they don't want to do it anymore. It's because their friendships fall out. So my number one rule is, if you start something, make sure that you have a good basis. When I got married, I read, or someone told me, never do a construction project or a house remodeling project unless you're 10 years into your marriage. or else you'll fight and break up. That's how intense a remodeling thing is. That's how it is with a podcast, man. I've known Corey for 15 years. I've known D for 25, and it's tough. And also, you know, we each have our job. D does the editing. I do the graphics. Corey's super smart. He talks. We all have like you know, we all have. If Corey wasn't there, just me and D making Street Fighter jokes all day, I'd be like, what are we doing? So Corey kind of makes us legitimate. D is like the audio wizard. And, you know, I can move pixels around in Photoshop. And then you bring all three of those together and we're fucking Planeteers, man. You know, the Bitcoin podcast is Captain Planet. We just make this product.
What was the guy who had the heart? I want that to be me so bad.
Kwame?
Somebody please Photoshop me onto him. Heart. I just want to be the little guy. Oh, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
Let's see if anybody has any questions. D has been killing it. James Bond, free Skillshare Media. There's a couple people in the chat, man, killing it up. We bounced around from like 20 viewers to 10 viewers. Got a couple likes. I don't see too many questions left, so I guess we could wrap it up. Is there anything I may have missed? Anything you wanted to talk about that I may not have asked, or gave you an opportunity to discuss?
Nah, man, I just want to let you know that, man, I appreciate everything that you do, and we're lucky to have you. We really are. And I want this to grow, man. I appreciate you letting me be on your show. And in the future, if we can do a show together, if I can meet up with you in person, let's keep this rocket going. And also, when you say a little bit, do you still go a little bit? That's my favorite part. So keep that up.
Thanks, man. Yeah, definitely. Coming from you, that really means a lot, dude. Like I said, inspiration to aspire, inspiration again. It's a beautiful thing, and the price just keeps growing right now. It's awesome. I want to ask the guy who asks the guys, can you explain Bitcoin in 10 words or less? And discrepancy, you cannot say anything that any guest has ever said to you.
Oh. Bitcoin is your ticket to the mothership. Buy your ticket. That's Bitcoin, baby.
I like it. It is. That is Bitcoin. All right, guys. Don't forget to go check out thebitcoinpodcast.com, on Twitter at the BTC podcast, right? Or at TB. What is it again?
Shame on you, Ken. Shame on you. The BTC podcast.
The BTC podcast. Wow, dude. I'm burnt out. Like I said, my anxiety's starting to kick in. My high's starting to wear off. I need to go smoke, bro.
I hear you, man. I hear you.
All right. Yeah, guys, go check that out. Please hit the like button. Drop some more comments. I'll be back to answer some questions later, and share this with the world. And again, Marcello, thank you so much. Have a day.